All right, folks, it's time to get inside the funnel. It is August, applications are open, but chaos has also opened. Last month, we set the board. CRM State. They came out of the July ranked number one with dashboards stacked high, action rules stacked less high, and a Metro Cub mascot that immediately started eating raw totals in the corner. Now the students are here. Not in theory, not in a cabinet slide, not in a model. Actually here. They're clicking, asking. They're comparing, abandoning, returning, checking dates, reading cost language. They're opening event pages. They're deciding very quickly whether your process feels helpful or exhausting. Tonight, Portal Polytechnic has strong early app starts, which sounds good until you look at how many students are restarting instead of submitting. Outlook State has welcomed students to the application cycle with an attachment, because apparently the year is 2009 and pain builds character. Prestige U has announced a surge in interest, which most likely means more people have looked through the locked gate. And of course, Pell Grant A&M is quietly doing something radical. It is answering early curiosity with clear, human, useful next steps. That matters, because August is where curiosity either becomes motion or it disappears into the noise. Tonight, the Inquiry Lantern returns, and we reveal this month's mascot from the Fieldsmith's Register to mascots. We check in on the enrollment aces, who are already showing where. And later in the film room, we look at the ongoing adaptive deliver engine, a smarter way to build weekly event communications that is more than saying, here are some good events, good luck. Let's go to the big board. The big board tonight is about the opening month of applications. This is the first real test of whether July preparations meant anything at all. In July, people can sound aligned. In August, students find the gaps. They find the broken link. They find the vague, generally helpful instruction. They find the event page that makes them choose from 12 things when they only needed one recommendation. They find the application field that asks a question no one explained. And they find out very quickly whether your school is guiding them or handing them a maze with branding. Portal Polytechnic has the headline number this week. At least app starts are up. That is good. But here's the early warning. Repeat starts are also up. Students are coming back to the application more than expected before submitting. That could be healthy. Some students need time. Some compare options. Some start and return later with family input. But repeated starts can also mean confusion, friction, lost progress, unclear requirements, or a process that just makes students feel like they are doing something wrong.
One must resist the urge to applaud every motion as progress. A student returning to the same unfinished task may not be committed. They may be trapped.
Leonard opens with restraint and doom. That is his comfort zone.
I, in Portal Polytechnic, should know the difference by now. If a student starts the application 3 times, perhaps the student's not showing grit. Perhaps the blasted thing is annoying. There are ways to express that without sounding as though you are throwing a chair. There are ways to build a form without making students hate everyone involved. Yet, here we are.
And we are, of course, back in form. This is the lesson. Application starts are not enough. You need to look at starts, returns, partial completions, pauses, field level drop-off, device behavior, and what students do after they abandon. The question is not only did they start, the question is what happened next. Pell Grant A&M is not leading the volume story tonight. They are leading the clarity story. Their early application path is simple, their event follow-up is plain, and their counselor language sounds like an actual person wrote it. Their first reply does not ask students to decode institutional structure. That's not flashy. That is useful.
Some schools open the gate and hand students a lantern. Some open the gate and hand students a policy manual. The first group learns faster.
Exactly. August is the month where student curiosity is still fragile. If you meet it with a clean path, it can grow. If you meet it with clutter, delay, or just generic noise, it fades faster than most dashboards can detect. So let's bring all the analysts back to the desk. Question tonight: what is the biggest mistake schools make when applications open? Leonard, you're first.
They confuse access with invitation. Opening an application is not the same as making a student feel welcome. The door may be unlocked, yet the room may still feel hostile.
That's actually pretty warm, Leonard.
Give him a minute. You'll ruin it with a ledger. A ledger will improve most rooms you've entered. And a fire exit will improve most meetings you've led.
Arik, just get to your answer.
The biggest mistake is adding urgency before removing confusion. Schools love a deadline. They love a countdown. They love a big red button that says apply now. Then the student clicks it and finds a process designed by 7 committees and, of course, a printer jam.
So your view is that application marketing and application experience are often misaligned.
My view is that people keep advertising a path that they have not walked themselves. I walked an application path once.
Go on, Crispin. Please tell us.
It was 2018, or perhaps 2020. The path began with a friendly email and ended in a residency question that no one understood. We lost many fine ink drafts there.
That is both strange and accurate. Thank you, Crispin.
The young must be guided past the residency question. That is an old truth. Early interest does not ask for much. It asks for a clear next step, a reason to trust you, and proof that somebody thought about the person on the other side of the form.
And I think what Silas is getting to here is the August lesson. When applications open, you're not just collecting activity, you are setting the emotional tone for the entire cycle. A student who starts strong and gets confused early can become silent before your team knows there's a problem. It's time for the Fieldsmith's Register to Mascots, where we reveal the enrollment that best captures what a school is showing us this month. Tonight's mascot, well, it goes to Pell Grant A&M, and this is a good one. Pell Grant A&M has not won the volume headlines. It's not dominated the rumor board. It is not announced as national search initiative with a name that sounds like it was generated by a committee trapped in a hotel conference room. Instead, it is doing the first part of the cycle well. It's recognizing early curiosity and it's responding with care. That earns Pell Grant A&M this month's mascot. Prospect R. It's an interest type of enrollment. It represents early curiosity, authentic inquiry, fragile student attention. It's also attracted to storytelling, counselor voices, and clear exploratory paths. The threats are purchase lists, generic messaging, confusing next steps. Likely consequence when nurtured. Curiosity becomes action. The counter risk? Attrition gets trampled by volume campaigns. The Prospectar is the right mascot here because it represents the earliest spark of interest. Not a completed application, not a deposit, not a student who is fully decided. It's just the first real sign that someone might care. The register frames Prospectar as delicate. Early curiosity, often found near inquiry forms, campaign and campus visit pages, counselor introductions, and organic search paths. It thrives on sincere communication and clear pathways. But it scatters when schools use generic messaging, purchased list logic, or just confusing calls to action. And that is the August story here. Schools want Appligon. They want the completed application. They want action. But Prospector comes first. If you mishandle Prospector, you may never get an Appligon. Pell Grant A&M is doing three things right here. First, they are treating early interest as a relationship, not as a record. And second, they are giving students next steps that feel natural, not forced. And third, they are letting counselors voice the institution clarity, do more work than automation alone. And that is how early curiosity survives.
In my day, we called this listening.
That's also a really good point, Crispin. Thank you.
Then we built systems to scale listening, and sometimes we did forget the listening part.
An even better point, Crispin. Thank you.
A prospector is not won by noise. It is won by restraint, relevance, and the rare institutional habit of sounding like a person. Look at that! Leonard discovered humanity and immediately tried to dress it for dinner. At least one of us dresses.
Okay, that's enough. Pell Grant A&M earns Prospector this month. That matters because August curiosity is fragile. Protect it or lose it. Let's check the Enrollment ACE's injury report because applications have been open for about 5 minutes and the staff are already being asked to make the whole cycle feel seamless, with half the documentation and twice the urgency. First up, we have our slate captain. Status, probable. Condition, application launch rule stiffness. Slate wizard, status, day-to-day. Condition, conditional logic strain from Portal Polytechnic app starts. Marketing maven, status, active. Condition, subject line fatigue after 3 opening cycle drafts. The coach, status, questionable. Condition, early urgency speeches before data review. The architect, status, probable. Condition, strong path map at Pell Grant A&M. The wildcard, status unknown. Condition, created a new segment called Warmish Students. Data night, limited practice. Condition, CRM state added 2 dashboards since the last episode. The fixer, status active. Condition, already repairing Outlook state. Attachment fallout. Trend tracker, status active. Condition, watching the repeat app starts with open suspicion. Tech quiz, status probable. Condition, Portal Polytechnic says the application works. Students are still voting with their behaviors though. And that's the staff story tonight. And it's about the difference between launch and support. A school can launch the application and still be unprepared for what happens next. The first wave of student behavior creates questions. Why did starts spike in one territory? Why did mobile users pause more often? Why are the event clicks strong but the registrations weaker? Why are students restarting an application from the beginning? Who answers those questions? And who actually acts? Who decides whether this is a communication issue, a form issue, a counselor issue, a system issue, or just a student confusion issue? The benchmark key requests opening cycle comparisons against 5 peer groups. Count Responsula recommends a welcome drip, a reminder drip, and a drip to remind students about the reminder drip. The crown figure insists that the app settings were correct during testing. Her timeliness, the Duchess of Cadence, has issued a warning against sending the same deadline message to everyone. And Sir Render requests a dashboard that shows whether the dashboard is helping. That last request feels pointed, and maybe a little too close to home.
The first month does not injure staff because students have questions. It injures staff because the system did not decide who owns the answers.
And that is the operational lesson, really. Student questions are not the problem. Unowned student questions are the problem. This week's instrument of perpetual flux is once again the inquiry lantern. Last month, we lit it to see who was preparing to follow real interest and who was preparing to chase volume. This month, students are actually moving, so now the lantern is doing more glowing. It is judging. Pell Grant A&M, its reading is steady, warm glow. Portal Polytechnic, the reading is a bright flicker, but unstable. Outlook State is reading, dimmed by attachment. Prestige U, the reading is bright from far away, locked at the gate. CRM State, its reading is many small lights and an unclear map. The inquiry lantern is strongest at the Pell Grant A&M because early curiosity is being met with useful response. It flickers at Portal Polytechnic because there is movement, yet the movement may contain friction. It dims at the Outlook State because the first touch asks students to do too much translation. It glows oddly at Prestige U because attention is high, always has been, but the institution treats most interest as background music for its own selectivity story. And CRM State has lights everywhere, which is impressive until you ask whether the lights lead anywhere at all.
Prestige U has a curious habit of admiring interest from students it has no intention of serving. That is not a habit. That's their mascot in a blazer.
The Hedge League desk will be hearing from both of you.
The lantern does not care how many students look your way. It cares whether looking your way helps them take a meaningful step.
And that's why we keep the lantern in this show. Interest is not the same as motion. Motion is not the same as progress. And progress is when students can see the next step and believe it's worth taking. Now it's time for the independent subquery, where we inspect the thing the main report is smiling too hard to explain. Tonight's claim comes from Portal Polytechnic. The app starts are up. And hey, that is true. The main report here is not wrong, but the subquery asks, are starts turning into submissions? Or are students restarting because something is getting in the way? Portal Polytechnic's main report, app starts up, portal traffic up, mobile use up, early campaign clicks up, but the repeat starts are elevated, submissions are lagging is visible, mobile pause rate is high, help page visits are rising, and event page exits are increasing. That is where this is getting actually interesting. The headline metric says one thing, the behavior underneath says something else. Portal Polytechnic does have early activity. The students are responding, the students are trying, and they are moving. But some of that movement looks less like progress and more like circling. Let's bring the desk in.
The institution appears tempted to interpret repeated application starts as enthusiasm. And I'm tempted to interpret Leonard's pauses as wisdom. Temptation's dangerous, don't you agree? Was there analysis in there somewhere? Aye, students are starting because something's getting in their way. Stop admiring the traffic jam.
That is the blunt version.
There was once an application where students restarted because the save button looked like a decorative rectangle. We called the resulting report strong re-engagement. It was not our finest hour.
That's painfully relevant. Thank you, Crispin.
A student who starts twice might be interested. A student who starts 5 times may be asking for a rescue.
And I think that's the subquery finding. Portal Polytechnic, it's not failing, not yet, but it is getting an early warning sign. The schools should not wait until October completion panic to diagnose August friction. This is exactly when adaptive teams act. They check the field level pause points, they test the mobile path, They compare start to submit by device. They read the help page visits. They ask counselors what questions are actually coming in. And they update the message based on the barrier students are actually hitting. That's the work. The report says starts are up. The subquery says do not celebrate until you know why students are coming back. Tonight's episode of Inside the Funnel is brought to you by Attachment Pal. Does your school need to tell students something important? Have you considered hiding it inside a PDF? The Attachment Pal, you can turn any simple instruction into a downloadable mystery. Perfect for application instructions, scholarship details, visit schedules, aid timelines, and anything else you could have put clearly on a page. Attachment Pal. Because nothing says student-centered like asking a 17-year-old to manage your file naming convention. Side effects may include confusion, silence, duplicate questions, and one staff member saying, "I thought we already sent that." Coming up on the film room, we are looking at the ongoing adaptive deliver engine. And this connects directly to tonight's lesson. A lot of schools send event mailings. They're basically just a list. Here are some events, here are dates, here are links. Please determine what matters to you, while also applying to college, comparing costs, answering family questions, and remembering 12, maybe 13 passwords. That's just not good enough. The ongoing adaptive delivery engine is built to go well past that. We are using student-specific logic, dictionary exports, dynamic templates, umbrella event redirects, and precise time formatting to make a weekly events deliver that is more useful, more guided, and more engineered. The point is not more email. The point is better guidance. If a student is early in the funnel, the message should help them explore. If they've started an application, the event should support that next step. If they are admitted later in the cycle, the same engine can shift towards yield, fit, family questions, and belonging. And that's the difference between a calendar blast and an adaptive communication system. Student-specific event logic, dynamic templates, umbrella event redirects, precise time formatting, message edit guidance, not listings. This is all up next on the film room. And if Outlook State is watching, yes, this can be done without attaching the PDF. Stop attaching the PDFs. Time for this month's Inside the Funnel Power rankings. Remember, this is not a prestige ranking. It's not a volume ranking. It's not a ranking of who sent the boldest application launch email. This is about who is best positioned to adapt across the cycle. Pell Grant A&M, number 1. Moving up from number 2 last month. The clear early communication, strong prospector energy, low panic. They're not the loudest school in the league, which may be why the signal is easier to hear. Number 2, CRM State. It's down one spot. Still has strong infrastructure, still real potential, but dashboard readiness without action rules remains a MetroCub buffet. Number 3, Portal Polytechnic. Holding at number 3, app starts are up, that is real. Repeat starts without clean submissions are a warning. The school is not in trouble yet, but the warning light is on. Number 4, Prestige U. Holding at number 4, the interest remains high, humility remains missing, and the inquiry lantern is bright, though much of the light is bouncing off of the locked gate. Number 5, Coupon State. Down one spot. It's a quiet month, which may mean discipline. It may also mean that the discounting chalice is being polished off camera. Outlook State. The status, it's attachment danger. The risk is the ignore affirmation if message failing and fatigue continues. Let's get the closing read from Silas.
A Pell Grant A&M takes the lead because they treat curiosity like something living. Portal Polytechnic treated starts as proof. Outlook State treated instructions like cargo. One of those ages better.
That's the board. Final whistle tonight. When applications open, the goal is not just to generate activity. The goal is to preserve curiosity and turn it into confident action. If a student starts, help them continue. If they pause, learn why. If they ask a question, answer like a person. If they return to the same step over and over and over and over, do not celebrate the traffic until you inspect the path. Pell Grant A&M showed how early curiosity can be protected. Portal Polytechnic showed how good activity can hide friction. Outlook State showed that attachments remain undefeated against clarity. In Prestige U showed that attention is not the same as access. And of course, CRM State showed that a dashboard can see a lot while still missing the next move. I'm David Dysart, and this has been Inside the Funnel. Thanks for getting inside the funnel with us tonight. Before we go, a few notes from after the whistle. First, Portal Polytechnic's app starts are still under review by the independent subquery desk. Early signs show repeated starts without submission. The school is calling it engagement, the desk is calling it unfinished business. Second, Outlook State has reportedly formed a working group on whether instructions need to be attachments. No students were consulted in the formation of this working group, which does feel on brand. And finally, an update on the rumored Leonard AidTab media project. A new memo appeared with the phrase AidTab tonight in much larger type. Leonard, I have to ask, are we looking at a real show here?
One does not generally comment on development matters this early, though I will say the title has a sudden authority.
Of course you will.
The memo has a certain forgery to it. David, ask him for the source file.
You have asked for the source file twice already.
And twice he has floated past the Christian like a man crossing a puddle in rented shoes. I'm ignoring your tone, not your concern. Then answer the concern.
Crispin, what do the archives say?
I have seen a memo frame before. Or maybe it was just very much like it. The format was retired in 2014 after an unfortunate webinar series and a decorative serif no one trusted.
That feels bad for Leonard.
It feels old for Leonard.
Silas, final read.
That is not a signature. That is confidence in cursive.
That's wrong. So to summarize, Leonard believes he may be getting a show. Hallrick believes the memo was forged. Crispin believes it came from the graveyard of abandoned templates. And Silas believes the penmanship is doing more work than the evidence.
I believe professionalism is being mocked by people who do not deserve a dressing room. I believe you're being beta tested.
We will follow the story as it becomes even less dignified somehow. I'm David Dysart. Thanks for getting inside the funnel with us today.